This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author U and The Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, as always, it's a fabulous day to think about publishing your current book. How about the next book? How about creating a stellar marketing plan? How about finding some new gizmos, gadgets, and tools and tips and all those things? That's what we're going to do today. And with me is a new voice we've never had on the Author U, your guide to book publishing show, is Stephen Sanchez. And Stephen has a very broad background. He comes from over 20 years out of Los Angeles with an internet-based agency developing online platforms for leading companies and industries, including travel, health, and racing. When Borders bookstores closed their doors and Amazon and Apple launched the Kindle and iPad, Stephen turned his attention to another author platform development. He himself is an international best-selling author, and I hope he tells us about his book, and has worked as a technical editor on for booksellers such as homepage usability, web design, On a Shoestring, and the unusually useful web book. He enjoys working with emerging internet technologies and especially with marketing and publishing opportunities for authors. Stephen also has a hat that he wears. He's the VP of the Independent Writers of Southern California. So he gets self-publishing. He gets independent authoring and publishing. And we're going to come from a point, what we're going to talk about is gizmos and gadgets and author platforms and some website tips and tricks, all those within our hour with us. So, Stephen, welcome to Author U, your guide to book publishing.
Hi, Judith. Thanks for having me.
Well, I am really tickled pink. And I should tell everyone how I met Stephen was online, as so many people do. And he jumped on our on Friday afternoons, we have the virtual author happy hour. And he jumped on and he never showed himself or anything. I just saw this name and as we're closing up and I said, who is this person? And he came on. And he had this fabulous backdrop with his nifty, which my web around arrived, Stephen.
Good. Very good.
Yeah. And I just said, ooh, I have to have that. So, and I just said,
and isn't it great? Don't you just love it?
Yeah, it's fabulous. It's just truly fabulous. So we're jumping on, and Stephen, you see authors from your Southern California pedestal that are
right.
Are there no different from New York authors and Florida authors and Pennsylvania authors and here we in Colorado authors and global authors? They're all have common things that they want to do, and they'd like to succeed probably with the least amount of money in the shortest period of time. Would that sum it up,
right.
Steve? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. So we want you to prevent you from making boo-boos and mistakes, because you all will. I guaranteed every one of us has had times we wish we could roll back the clock. So, Stephen, as someone who has worked with people with developing their website platforms and things, let's start there. I'd like to start there. What are some of the essentials you need, and what are the common screw-ups?
Well, you said something kind of important that one of my mentors talks about, Armin Morin, and he says something where he says, go get your no. You know, you're going to get a certain amount of no's in your life. You're going to have a certain amount of failure at the start. And so he's like, well, just go get your no. And what that means is, just start, go out there and do that, and collect those no's, because eventually you're going to hit. And it becomes a numbers game. And so go get your no's, and then after you've got enough no's, then you'll have your success. And it really is true, whether it's putting out a book proposal or starting a website or learning a new technology, there's going to be a bumpy time. Don't you wish you could go back and start your life over again and try and do different things and turn left instead of right sometimes?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I have said this, I haven't said it for a long, long, long time, but my most successful book was rejected by every New York publisher. And that's when I was I haven't said this in a long time either. I am a recovered New York publishing snob. And and I believe that only legitimate books and authors came out of New York, Stephen. That was my belief. When I started, and I started with New York. 18 of my books have been published with traditional publishing. And that's how I started. But I learned a lot.
Right.
I learned a lot. So
yeah, I have a friend of mine who's a 4 times New York Times best-selling author, and her books go for about $25 a piece. And she said the last one that came out, she said she got 50 cents per book. And she makes, tons of money on real estate investment and whatnot. And she just said, that's just cute. Her next book was being independently published because she realized she wanted to keep, more of the lion's share of that. So,
when you learn to get out there and you find that what I call the cash cow 2-step, you start speaking on your book and connecting with your audiences. And your audiences happen to pay 100% on the dollar for your book. They don't refund it. They're tickled pink to have you there in front of them and sign it. It is the only way to fly. It really, truly is the only way to fly. And you'll increase going from that 50 cents. When I started back in the old days, Stephen, New York paid for a hardback book, 10% on the first 5,000, 12.5% on the next 5,000, and if you sold over 10,000 books, you got 15%, and that was of the retail price. So going back to your person, $25 book, by gosh, we would have gotten $5 a books. We would have been doing a happy dance. But the reality is, then they dropped it to 10% of net.
Yeah.
or less. All you have to do is do the math very quickly to think there's got to be a better way.
Well, and I get it. I mean, I'm sure J.K. Rowling is very happy with their traditional publishing deal. And, they took things to a level that she could not have done independently. So there's a place for that. But there's absolutely never been a better time to be a writer. The tools are better. The gates are all down. You can get help. A lot of people that fled the publishing industry now have kind of set up their own shingles on the Internet. So anything that you used to go to a publisher for, you can now go out and hire yourself. And so if you really believe in your book and have a cause or a movement you want to start, you're not waiting on somebody's approval to get going on that. I know people that have been submitting proposals for 10 years to get books. It's like, why do that? Get out there and just get your book done.
Well, my advice, and I think this is important to say this for everyone who has the dream, and it is the dream, it, Stephen, to publish with New York. And dreams are dreams unless you have a plan to execute it. With New York, that if you're going to go down that road and get an agent, that I think it's imperative that you put a time limit on it, that you're only going to go down this track so long. But at the same time, you've got this time limit and you're hoping and you're praying and you're doing whatever you're going to do, is that you will put and start executing plan B, which is you're going to do it yourself. And you have that running parallel that if you have to jump off A, you're ready to go. So that's my advice.
I always like looking at parallels and other things that kind of give me a roadmap of how to do what I'm trying to do if I don't know how to do something. And I look at it like, some of these internet YouTube stars. I live out here near Hollywood. And, of course, everybody has a screenplay, everybody has a book, and everybody wants to get published and make billions of dollars and whatnot. But getting in and breaking in is really hard. There's a lot of things in development out there, and your screenplay or book can languish for 10 years on the shelf just waiting for someone to pick it up, and you can't wait for that. So all of a sudden you have this little indie market. You've got these independent people that they set up their smartphones, the little microphone. They set up a YouTube channel. And if you talk to some of these people that are successful, they're making bank. They're doing really, really well. And nobody was opened the doors for them other than themselves. And so it's kind of like that way with authoring and books. When I saw that, Amazon was coming out with Kindle and Apple came out with the iPad, it's like, this is going to change everything. One of my clients when I was doing internet development was one of the largest business liquidators in the United States. And we saw a lot of businesses kind of going under. And when we saw Borders Books, in fact, we handled the Borders Books closures. And I realized, okay, books aren't going away, but obviously the way that books are currently done is changing. And that's kind of when I started getting more into platform development, because I realized, okay, for 20 years I've been building websites for companies, and that's just a publishing platform for them. And, I started getting around authors, and authors were like, well, I hear this thing that publishers want a platform, and what is a platform, and is it a website, or is it something else, and is it a speaking gig, and is it, and I'm sitting back here from the internet world looking at it going, well, this internet is exploding, and companies are getting their little bit of real estate out there. That's really no different than what an author does. And it's not just the website, but it's getting, your little headquarters out there where people can find you.
Well, I you used a phrase, Stephen, that I loved. It's so Hollywood. It's so Hollywood. Are you making bank? Are you making bank? That is so Hollywood. So I wrote down the note. I'm going to use it for a tweet out. Are you making bank with your book? 3 tips to learn how. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take our first break. With us is Stephen Sanchez. He has got a huge background in creating platform development, websites, and really how to make you rock and roll. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you or another? Author U shows you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you will find a supportive and brainstorming community that is connected and creative, no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual Author U extravaganza. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. Author U is the premier authoring resource in the country, creating community, education, guidance, vision, and success for the serious author. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. Timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted on its social media platforms, and it is free. Discover Author U, where authors go to become seriously successful. Join Author U today at authoru.org. Are you confused about publishing options? Do you know which printing option is best for your book? Does your stomach flip when you think about selling books? Or do you feel overwhelmed with what to do about book marketing and publicity? Get the answers and much more. Get them and from someone who knows publishing inside and out from both the traditional and independent sides how to make a successful book. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand and platform, and is a success, a bestseller. It is your choice. You choose. If you want author and publishing success, you want Judith Briles as your book coach. sign up for her weekly blogs and e-zine at thebookshepherd.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, we're talking all kinds of goodies to really add to your author success, which is really what I want to do. And I want people to be really successful. I want you to sell a gazillion books. I want you to find the different avenues that are the right fit, feel comfortable for you, and all that. And I know with all the publicity I did over the years, one of my favorite formats was radio. So I was tickled pink with podcasting came along to have that, which is going to be one of the avenues you'll use for your own promotion, marketing, publicity, etc. But I do want to give a shout out to all our fans because that, our show has been around for 5 years. And when I check my stats just for the month of May and that 2/3 through May, when we didn't even get 2/3 through, but taped this show, we already had 107,000 downloads just for the month.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah, it's very cool. And so just a shout out and thank you for all of you who listen to the Author You, Your Guide to Book Publishing show. And so with us, we have Steven Sanchez. And I love the phrase he did. He just came right out of the gate with, you got to get to your no before you can get to your yes. Before you can get to the yes of success, I'm going to buy your book, I'm going to go with you, I'm going to hire you, I'm going to fill the blank. So one of the things that you need is this thing called the platform and platform development. And that encompasses a lot of things. So Steven, let's just jump into that. I'm going to toss it back to you.
Sure. Well, I really, got to go back to Michael Hyatt. Used to be the publisher, Thomas Nelson, and wrote the book, Platform. It was the very first book, actually, on Platform, Get Noticed in a Noisy World. And he talks about your website really being kind of the hub or kind of like the center planet of your publishing empire. And so think of, and I love this illustration, he talks about your website as being like, the hub, and all your social media, networks as being satellites. And so it kind of gives you a mental picture of the importance of having that place that you control and that everything else kind of comes and goes relative to that central hub. Your website is the kind of thing that everyone, they ask, well, do I really need one? My publisher said that they would put one up for me, and so then they get some brochure that does nothing.
Yeah, right.
It's these days it isn't that hard, and I get it. I'm a techie kind of guy, so I'm not afraid of carrying in, and I know we got technophobes in our iWAS group here in LA, and I always get people coming up to me like, how do I start my website? And it's just start. The key to the website is find something that you can do. Whether it's WordPress or Wix or Squarespace, whatever platform helps you or a software platform helps you to develop it, just find one that works for you. I like WordPress. It's a little bit hard to learn at the start, but you literally can do anything on it. It started off as a blogging platform, and it will run your whole website now, and Google knows how to, index things you publish on there. And so, this time of the coronavirus lockdown is I'm finding it to be an enormous opportunity for writers. There's that old phrase, when life gives you lemon, make lemonade.
Yes.
And it's kind of a pattern interrupt for a lot of people. We get into bad habits. We do what we do, and then we don't want to do what we don't do well. And all of a sudden, this lockdown comes, and all of a sudden, we can't go out, and we can't do this, and we can't do that, and we're daily, getting new rules about whether we can go out or go to the beach or whatever. It's a great time to learn something new. you've got easily probably 30 days ahead of you that, you're really probably going to be locked down. So learn some new things, play around with learning how to do a website, play around with something like Zoom, where you can get on and connect with other people, in an audio video way. Connect with a writer's group, take an online course, do a podcast, for everybody that, Judith just basically said when this airs that she's going to do all my marketing for me, social media marketing. So for all of you that want someone else to do your marketing, get on Judith's podcast because she'll do your marketing for you.
I actually do. I was telling, this is Stephen for our podcast. This is what we do. After we do a show, I will write up maybe 10 different tweets, a few Facebook postings. I will give them the master. This is my guest. Stephen will get this as we get closer to the broadcast date. We actually create a wonderful poster with his picture on it. That type of show that we do, and we put that out. We do an email blast to absolutely all my email followers, thousands of emails that I have, and we aggressively put it out each show for 2 solid months after it airs to support it. That's my job. That's my responsibility. My thank you to my guests because I think they're so valuable. But, for all of you listening, your book is valuable. Your expertise is valuable. What are you doing to market and who are you connecting with that will help shout out for you? I'm going to shout out for Stephen. I think he rocks, right? So I'll help push him. So what are you going to do? Dear author.
Well,
okay.
Yeah. And, I was talking a little bit about the lockdown. Back in 2008, there was a writer's strike, and a lot of people that worked in Hollywood all of a sudden, didn't have their regular gig and were unemployed, essentially. And what happened during that time was fascinating and will happen again, I'm absolutely sure of it, after this lockdown. During the writer's strike, all these writers just sat down at home, and they started working on their pet projects. They started working on the story they always wanted to tell, but just didn't have time because they're too busy writing for Hollywood or writing on a movie or writing on a TV show. And so about a year and a half after the writer's strike was over, we got all these wonderful books and movies that were not just retreads, but were actually really creative and smart. And I just know that after the lockdown is over, about a year out, we're going to see some phenomenal things from very creative people. If you don't believe me, you go on YouTube and start and just search on the term lockdown, and you'll find people that have taken old Disney songs and pop tunes and put words about the lockdown just as a creative expression. Get creative.
It's crazy. I also think that, here's what my vision is. I think we're going to see a revision when you're talking about stores and people buying and working. I think that you're going to see this, malls are going to disappear in a lot of ways. And I've said that, but I think you're going to see really a rejuvenation of a lot of the mom and pop stores where it used to be 2 or 3 people in a store was a good time at any one time. I think that is going to be coming back.
Well, let me tell a little story that will kind of explain or give maybe a little bit of hope to some people out there with the lockdown. As you mentioned, we're part of the Independent Writers of Southern California here, and we have satellites around Southern California where we meet, and then we have a central place where we have workshops and monthly panel meetings. And as the years have gone on, it's gotten harder and harder in a place as big as LA to get people to actually come out of their homes, drive down to the meeting. And so we've seen the trend of local meetings getting smaller and smaller. And so when the lockdown happened, all of a sudden we couldn't meet physically anymore. And so all of a sudden it was like, well, okay, we're going to not do anything. We canceled a couple meetings we had up. And so I brought up that we needed to start getting on Zoom. And so we had a couple of meetings where we just got on Zoom and learned how to use it. And most of these people were people that had never been on something like before. So there was all the go get your no, right? It was all the hard things that people had to figure out how it worked and where things were. So we just did a couple of meetings showing people how to do that. Well, now we're rocking. Now we're doing webinars and meetings on Zoom. We've got a party coming up. I found an online party game that we're going to do that people can use their smartphones to connect. Judith, you and I connected on your party, your happy hour party. You don't have to just, crawl in a cave and wait for, this virus thing to blow over. I mean, you can get out there and start connecting. And we found is we're now getting more people on our Zoom meetings, and we're getting feedback, people saying, when this thing is over, I hope you guys will keep doing this because this is way better than even meeting in person. And, we're like, well, we don't want to stop meeting in person. We want to get back to that. But you're absolutely right. We can now reach people that, we couldn't have reached otherwise.
Well, I think it's plus. My confession, I've been using Zoom for a long time. I've been using Skype. I interact. I have one person who works full time for me in the Philippines. So it's nothing new to me, but I have Zoomitis. My confession, Stephen, I have Zoomitis because I start at 6 in the morning. I go to 6 at night. Sometimes all day. And when you are on Zoom, the person who is the hosting, who is running it, who is presenting, you are on. I can't show up. I can't show up in my robe. Where I could on although I have some people who are on the other end in their robes. All right. So let's before we take this next break, which is coming right up here, that I'd like to bring it back to really the platform. And I loved what you said, that your website, which I strongly believe, Stephen, is the core. You've got to have a website. These people who are still resisting, please get over it. Get over it. And that's the core, but there are components on it. So, Stephen, in your development, I'd love to, we're going to take a break here like in 45 seconds. I'd love to have you kiss on what you think are the essentials of every website for an author.
Sure.
Every website. And then also, what part of that can you do to really push out and start thinking, okay, what are the tools are going to make you tap dance? You've mentioned Zoom. There are a whole bunch others that they should be using. I know one you introduced to me when you just dropped in. I was so excited. I had my credit card out ready to buy, and I did.
Absolutely.
There's just things that, the evolutions that's going on, that you can be a full-blown operation for not a lot of money.
Never been a better time to be a writer.
Never a better time. All right, we'll be right back. It's Author You, Your Guide to Book Publishing. Stephen Sanchez is with me today.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Discover the power of you and your book at the Judith Briles Unplugged events. Each summer, Judith Briles Book Marketing Unplugged unfolds over 3 intensive days working with just Judith. You get publishing strategies, author and book platforms, book marketing panache and pizzazz, and authoring tools to take you and your book to rock star success. In the fall and winter, Judith Briles Speaking Unplugged includes Judith as your coach and mentor during 2 powerful days. You will learn how to structure a speech, how to create openings and closings, how to find gigs that pay you and sell your books, and you will get one-on-one coaching. Go to thebookshepherd.com and click on the Events tab to learn how to participate at the next Unplugged Workshop event.
Congratulations on getting your book published. The effort you put into your work is truly commendable. But what's next? What will happen to all the knowledge you have worked so hard to acquire to produce your book? Here at TogiNet Radio, we can provide you a platform to keep your knowledge working for you through the power of podcast. The subjects our podcasts cover are as varied as the grains of sand on a beach. From life coaching to military resources to business success, even to the paranormal. We have a place for everyone. To get started on your next step, call Scott at 903-787-5880 or email him at scott@toginetradio.com. That's SCOTT at TOGINETRADIO.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, I can't think of anyone who might give us better input on all the essentials that we need on our website than actually the dude who was the editor for the bestseller called Web Design on a Shoestring. So let's take shoestring, Stephen, and really think about that, because you led in and you teased us with it was the core, which I truly believe it is the core of your universe as you go out to publishing. Because you want to bring people back. We can get into that. But let's talk about the essentials as you've seen evolve over the years.
Sure. Well, the reason it's the core mainly is because you control it. Things are going to change. Coronavirus lockdown, publishers, houses go down, new ones come up, new technologies like an iPad or Kindle. The nice thing about having your own real estate on the internet, think of it that way, is that you can pivot really, really quickly. I tend to like WordPress. Let's get into your website a little bit. I like WordPress because it separates form from function. So you have a theme with WordPress where you can, get the look and feel you want, and then you can have plugins and things that you can add features. So, for example, there's something called My Book Table. It's a plugin for WordPress that allows you to just put in a bookstore on your website. You don't have to do all the coding. You don't have to hire an expert to do that. It's a plugin you pop in, and all of a sudden you just configure it, and there you have a very professional-looking book page. So, some of the essentials you asked about putting on a website, a couple things. You got to have your book on your website. And your book needs to link to a place where you can buy it. I'm always stunned when I get to an author's website where, they may have a picture of their book, and I'm looking at it going, well, how could I buy it if I wanted to buy it? And there's no buy button. Make it so that you click on the cover, it goes to Amazon store or wherever they can buy the book. At least do that. But these days now, authors are celebrities. And people want to know more about you. It was never more shown to me when I went to Amazon.com one day, and on the home page, they had a video of Stephenie Meyer of the Twilight series, just about a minute and a half talking about her process of writing. And I saw that, and I went, oh, this is going to be big, because all of a sudden, people wanted to know, well, what's behind the book? Who is this author? What is she doing? What is her process? So for all of you guys that wonder, well, what do I do with a website? And I have my book, but what else? I mean, people want to know about you. That's why, another important thing other than just your picture and maybe your bio is start a blog. And you can talk about your process. You can talk about the research that went into your book, or how long you've been doing it, or how you write it. There's a never-ending supply of things, and you can even Google, what to do on an author website, and you will find dozens of articles that will tell you things like that. So, start with a blog. I would say it's kind of like a diary. It can be of your writing process. Some of my favorite author websites, include videos of them just talking. Sitting at their desk in front of their computer with their webcam or whatever on their laptop, just talking about their process. That gets to another important part of your website that I really think is kind of the next stage of it, is video. And I know as soon as I say video, a lot of people just cringe, so they just think, oh, I'm not,
I know.
Maybe radio, but not video for me.
I know. Let me make a suggestion here, because this is what I did, and I always refer when I got the goose to do it. That I had what I call a bad hair day. Women all have bad hair days. You guys seem to have it good. But anyway, I was inspired. The mouth was working. The brain was working. And I did, and I'm going to redo them now again, now that I have my new nifty gadget you tuned me into. I'm going to be redoing them all before summer's over. But every page, every section, tab, has a video on it on my website. Every one. Mm-hmm. And what I do is I just do a reveal of what they're going to find here. And a couple of them go 3 or 4 minutes, but some of them are like 30 seconds. And
yeah, you don't want to go 3 minutes. You want to go a minute and a half top.
So, that's what I'm going to be going in that tightening thing. But I love the idea of it right on your home page. Why don't you come on and just talk to your visitor? Connect with your visitor, because one of the things you haven't, to me, my interpretation of a website is that it develops trust, that the content that the visitor is going to find is trustworthy. It's authentic. You're the real deal. And you're going to build that trust through the content that you provide, through the methodology that you engage in there. Earlier this month, I did a webinar, exclusive webinar for our members here in the Author U community on how to create the ultimate opt-in. And how to develop the drip command. I mean, that's something maybe you might like to do for your group, but that going through step by step, and I turned over all my handouts to them, so they could go behind the scenes with me as I developed it, and why you want to do it. And then I showed them how you market it out to gather build your email base. But that's what that's for.
Well, let me put my 25-year-old internet developer hat on for a moment and tell your audience a little secret about the internet. For all of you that think it's got to be perfect and polished and you got to be Hollywood ready and all the rest of that, here's the little secret that most people don't know. That actually works against you. It was what everyone was trying to do at the beginning, but now what people want is authenticity. If they see a professionally polished video, they know that's probably not you because they certainly couldn't do it. And what they're looking, right? I mean, they're looking for who's the real person. I mean, we've all seen, interviews with, J.K. Rowling or George R.R. Martin and all the rest of that. But it's the unplugged interviews. It's the ones that they're kind of caught not, in a studio all prepared, but they're just talking in a restaurant or whatever, that they might drop a little quote or say something interesting. People just eat that kind of stuff up. So don't worry about being professional. You asked about tools and things, most of us have a smartphone now. You've got a high definition camera there, that is almost as good as anything that professionals are using. Seriously. Apple runs ads all about these professional things that are done on their iPhones. So you've already got a lot of technology already in your hands. Get yourself a good microphone, like a Yeti microphone by the company Blue, B-L-U-E, and get really good audio for yourself. And with your smartphone and good microphone, you're off to the races. Do some videos of you just talking. Put those up on your website. You get enough of them, you start a YouTube channel. It's free. One of my favorite authors, Clyde Cussler, he writes these adventure books, and it's just kind of fun summer read stuff. And you look at his YouTube channel, and it's horrible. It's just him sitting in his desk talking, about his process. But if you're a fan, you eat that kind of stuff up.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the old pen pal thing, and you come into play. So I think that, and it's something that I keep thinking I've got to sit down and just make it. So I'm creating my own little studio actually to do that. So I can just pound out actually 30 shorties. And you're absolutely right when you said that, like 90 seconds. Yep. What kind of little clips can you do? You don't have to do an hour show. You don't have to do a half-hour show. People have certain things that they're going to do. You have to know your format you're going to do. But, people love cheat sheets. They love tips. They like insights. Anything that could maybe just give them some shortcuts to get wherever they're trying to go.
And keep it short. I mean, think about, unless you were in some kind of an online course, when was the last time that you sat down and watched a 15-minute video on a website? You don't want that. You want short, minute and a half top. And longer than that, they're gonna click off. So, it makes it much easier for you when you're developing it.
Yeah.
Judith, you talked about studio, and you hinted a little bit about, that thing you bought that I showed off during your party. The thing you bought, so I jumped on your party and showed some things on Zoom, and basically I'll do a little plug here for it. It's called the Web Around. So THEWEBAROUND.com. And what all that it is, it's a green screen. It's about a 60-inch round green screen, but the genius of it is that it attaches to the back of your chair. And what's cool about this is if you want to do videos and your home doesn't look like a Hollywood mansion, or you want to be at the beach, or you want to be at some exotic location, and you just don't feel that you have the right place for that, this green screen allows you to put anything behind you, so you can be anywhere in the world you want to be. And it's great for Zoom meetings. They have it already built in, so it'll recognize that and use that. There's a lot of editing tools. I tend to use Camtasia, but if you're on a Mac, they have Camtasia for Mac. It's kind of expensive. They also have ScreenFlow, another way that you can, edit your videos, get them ready for YouTube or your website. So that really is your studio. You got a little green screen, you got your camera, your microphone, and you're ready to go.
I think that one of the things that I've discovered, and this is just the School of Hard Knocks, everybody, but I've done over 1,000 radio and TV shows before I started podcasting. Over 1,000 radio TV shows, from the big nationals to the little local down the street. And that I learned to do stuff really fast because you got one take. With live TV, you don't edit. Live radio, you don't edit. So you really learn to start thinking in the bite mentality. So I'm fortunate in that, but you could practice that. So you don't have to stumble. You don't have to look like you're reading a cue card, and that. And the one thing I will tell all of you, we're going to take our next break, final break, is make sure that if you're using the camera directly on your computer, you talk to the eyeball of the camera. So you're talking to your audience. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and guide to collaborate with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You do not need more problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and chaos. At times, she has had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, by a publishing service provider, and sometimes even by the author. If you want author and book success, connect with her today at thebookshepherd.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
My guest today has been Steven Sanchez, and he's got a long pedigree from where he's very active in the Independent Writers of Southern California. He's worked with editing major bestseller books in the past. He knows technology and tools and gizmos and gadgets, which I always love. And one of the things that, Steve, and I would love to have you talk about, going back to, because we haven't totally left the website, before we move forward, is the social media platforms. And I would love to have your input based on the evolution of websites and social media. Where should authors put their logos, their images, where they hang out on social media on their website?
Sure. Well, I've been around long enough that, when the social network started, the original, idea was, well, you had to be on all of them, right? You had to be on Facebook, you had to be on Twitter, you had to be on YouTube. And when there were 3 or 4 originally, that worked. And then everyone got stressed because all of a sudden there were 10, then there were 12, then there were 200, then there were 1,000. And people just started panicking. They're like, I can't do this. The thing, and I haven't heard anybody put it this way, so you can say you scooped it here. Think of the social network like an agent working for you and your book. Okay? So if you have a book and you want to get it out there, each social network is an agent that you hire to go out there and promote it. So if you're going to set up a Facebook page, that becomes an agent to that community. And they're not going to fool around with Twitter or Pinterest or anything else. They're your agent in the Facebook community. And then you're going to go ahead and put up a YouTube channel. Well, that's another agent working for you. And so after you have a couple of these out there, it's like having, a few people out there promoting your book for you. So most authors, if they go traditional, they've got one agent, right? So, pick your one agent. Find that one social network where your audience hangs out. And if you don't have an audience yet, then, go where you would go online. If there's a chat room, if there is that dates me, doesn't it? If there's a Facebook group or a YouTube channel that someone you follow there, then you're kind of getting a sense about, where your audience might be. And so, pick those kind of channels and think of it, like I said, as your agent. So feed it, give it what it needs to promote your stuff, and just participate there.
Start. Yeah. I would say that's a start. I think that, I'm a proponent actually to pick 2, because they have different purposes. I actually, I use Twitter a lot, but if you want publicity, you need to be on Twitter because that's where the media hangs out. If you want to get in front of them and have Twitter be your agent to push out your ideas when you learn the handles of whether it's Fox News or CNN or NBC or ABC or the Wall Street Journal or whatever, I've got them all, is that you start learning there are tips and tricks that you can use to get you in their eyeballs if you want media coverage or if you're newsjacking. And that's really important to understand. And then there's that, like you say, maybe Facebook is where your crowd hangs out. But if you're a business book, Facebook is not your crowd. It's not your crowd. It's LinkedIn and Twitter. So I think that it's real important to understand that each one has different uses. And you need to know what they are, and then you learn them well.
Absolutely. It's funny you say that. I hate Twitter. And you'll find that anytime you talk about any social network, there'll be those people that say, all I do is Facebook, and it's where all my tribe is, and that's where I go. And then the next person to speak will basically say, yeah, I tried Facebook, it didn't work for me, I got nothing there, I don't ever use Facebook, and all my tribe is on Twitter or on Pinterest or on Instagram or whatever. So if there is no right answer, there is no social network. I mean, Facebook is great. if it is the biggest, and if your audience is there, wonderful. It's also ridiculously expensive to advertise to Facebook, and Zuckerberg is constantly changing the rules there, so you may not get the kind of exposure that you want to get. So, you've got to find where your audience is and where you can engage them. And, the best advice I can tell you is to just be you. If there are 7 billion people in the world and you're 1 in a million, that means there are 7,000 people just like you. You can make a career out of 7,000 followers. So, go get your 7,000 followers and use your own heart and your own, loves as the guide. The things that you hang out with, the places that you go online, that's probably where your audience is going to be. And so just start, giving there. Don't try selling. No one likes that. No one likes to be sold. But everyone likes to buy. So go ahead and just be friendly, give to people, and you'll find your audience. And when they can come back to your website, when all of the things you do in your social media networks all point back to that thing that you control. You talked about your newsletter a little bit. Your opt-in.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we did talk about that authors really should have on their website is a way to collect their email addresses. The opt-in is key. You need to have something that you can give away for free that doesn't cost you anything, that people will come to your website and they'll give you their email address in exchange for that opt-in. And once you have that, now you have your network. And if you do want a traditional publishing deal, the first thing they're going to want to know is, well, how many people directly can you sell your book to? And if you don't have, it used to be 5,000, now it's 10. If you don't have 10,000 people on a list, most traditional publishers don't want to talk to you. So,
yep.
Have your website, have a way to collect email addresses by giving them, an opt-in, some PDF or an audio of you reading a book or, the first few chapters or whatever, you want to give away to people, and just start building that relationship with your community. And, it'll start slow. And everyone's afraid of that. They see people, like you talked about your podcast show, has been on for 5 years. But the secret is that what worked 5 years ago may not be working today. And so just start. I generally don't go back and listen to podcasts that were 10 years ago.
No,
I want the current.
I wouldn't either. Unless they were what they call a classic.
Right.
There could be classics out there, but so much has changed in the podcast arena. So.
Yeah, so don't worry if you don't have a lot of content or you don't look as big as somebody else. And, we all get intimidated by those authors that have been around for 20 years that have, blog posts going back to the 90s. And we're like, well, I'll never – look, just start. No one cares. They want to know what you're doing now. So start your website, get your blog. And if that's too intimidating, go on medium.com. There's an author I follow, Shanta Grimes. She has, I think, Ninja Writers, and she teaches on how to blog on Medium. And I think she's just a single mom that is blogging on Medium about writing and whatnot. And she teaches people, the ups and downs of getting on Medium. And so, it's not your platform. That's the danger of it. People used to do this on the Huffington Post, and then all of a sudden the Huffington Post didn't take submissions anymore. And that'll probably happen to Medium too. So the advantage of having your own website, the place that you control, is when a network eventually goes down or locks you out or whatever, you still control and you still have that list of people that are loyal to you, that you have a way to reach out to them by their email or their Twitter handle or whatever. And when you do then have a book or an opportunity, a speaking gig or whatever, you can, crow and tell the world about it. And when you don't, then you talk about other things. You talk about other people's stuff, and you just be valuable to people. And they'll follow you. I follow a number of writers that just because I like what they're doing and who they're following, and I want to know what they're up to.
Exactly. And that's so you can set that up so you can handle it. There is so much that you can do, all of you, that you can do. I mean, we're just kissing on a few of it here. One of the things that I think we have the time to hit on it, but Stephen had some critical tasks he thought that all authors should be doing in dividing their time between. Do you want to hit on that just a little bit? We have a couple of minutes left here.
Okay, sure. Most writers will write their book, and then they finish their book, and then now it's like, okay, well, now I need to get it published. So now they work on getting a publishing deal, and then they get the published. Now they have a box of books at their house, and then they're thinking, okay, well, shoot, how do I sell this? And then they start looking into marketing and promotion things and how to do all the rest of that. And they sell a few of them. Then they realize, well, now I need to grow that. And so that's kind of the path they take, and they're usually somewhere in that process. And the reality is you have to kind of do all those at the same time. And so the way I do it, it's like a quadrant, or you take like a calendar, a week calendar, and, you know, maybe you'll take the mornings are where you write. But then a different day the week, I'll do one of four things. So one day is writing, the next day is publishing, the third day is promoting or marketing, and the fourth day is networking. And so let me kind of break those down just a little bit. The writing you've already got. It's how you do your creative stuff. So that, you know, we won't talk about. The next step is publishing. And that could be either, you know, figuring out how to get your book, you know, published, whether it's on Amazon or, you know, your traditional publisher or whatever. It can also be publishing to your website. So just think of that as a category of, this is where I need to get my stuff out into the world, either in a book form or on the web or whatever. That's your publishing day. The third day is your marketing day. That's where you're looking for strategic partners. You're getting on, you're looking for people that have a website or a podcast or a place you can guest blog, anything you can do to kind of, you know, get yourself out there and get known by other people. That's that promotion and marketing thing. Speaking gigs, you know, whatever. And it kind of gets into that fourth day, which is the networking. And that's where you're just building relationships. And so it isn't so much selling, but, you know, you get out there and you find new opportunities. You get on someone else's podcast, like I'm doing here. You go to a writers group, you speak, you get to your local, you know, chamber, you talk to Toastmasters, you just talk about what it's like being a writer. You do whatever you can do to network. Those four things: writing, publishing, marketing, and networking. And if you
that's it. Yep. All right. So we are at timeout. I hate to say this. Thank you so much, Stephen Sanchez. And this was a really kind of a potpourri. Wise ideas for smart authors. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week,